Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start out by humbly acknowledging the land we live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, traditional lands of the Cree and Dene, and unceded territory of the Métis. And joining us online, we have Councillor Cardinal and Councillor Ball. Just remind the councillors to have your cameras on for voting purposes. And anyone in attendance that wishes to address council on any agenda items, just please register as a delegate before the agenda items begin. You have 5 minutes to speak. Please remain on topic and remain seated after questions. We've heard a report from Program Buffalo Economic Development, Tourism, Future State, and we've heard from the delegates. We've had a motion on the floor from Councillor Councillor McGrath. Councillor McGrath, if you'd like to read that motion, and it's already been seconded, we can move on to debate, discussion, and comments.
Sure. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. That Wood Buffalo Economic Development Corporation be reconstructed, realigned, resized, responsible, redirected to remain as a Paradigm corporation with the staff based out of McDonald Island with the synergies of shared services, shared facilities, and shared vision. And the current location be utilized as part of our commitment towards economic reconciliation to the Treaty 8 lands, the 5 bands that exist today in the Métis associations in the RMWB. And certainly that's what I put forward this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Has there been any consultation with the First Nations? With them? Absolutely not. But I've sat around this table and made commitments that, councillors say that we haven't lived up to. The first thing was the procurement. And my belief is if we work with all our stakeholders, this land could be rezoned, through, this is a big vision, but reserve land so that there's some benefit to the members that live in Fort McMurray. And it kind of roots towards economic development as it's supposed to be. We build the house that we have in the community and the regions. We might get some consistency in people and pride, and we all win. And I'll certainly don't want to belabor the process, because we can forecast a community for 250,000. We can bring up YMM North and give them $500,000. They're in town for the weekend, they're gone. But, we're still here. And we all came with big bushy hair back in the 80s, and now we got no hair left. So that's in itself is commitment. And economic development, I think that what I propose this evening makes sense. And obviously, when you're fighting internal combustion ever, like in the last decade, it wears a guy down. But I see the facilities not just at Treasure Island and McDonald Island. There's facilities in Fort Chipewyan, Conklin, Anzac, Janvier. We don't have a whole lot of infrastructure there. Fort McKay. And part of this whole process would be to have a community liaison that in the rural areas that knows the culture and the history and how important it is to recognize we have our part to do with economic development, but also economic reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Do we have any discussion, debate points, or comments from council? Not seeing any. I will add something. So I have spoke to RC about this after last night's meeting, and one of the concerns they did have is that they weren't able to actually take in the entire corporation of economic development into the ROC for room. They would have to check with the Red Pole Center if they had room and if it fit in their mandate. So that was a concern. They were able to integrate some people in if they took it under umbrella, but as the whole corporation going over, they didn't really have the physical space for it.
Well, I'd stay on the board, and I'd kiss somebody's arse downtown Calgary if we couldn't fit 9 people into McDonald Island. I could probably find room for them this evening. It's just talk about working, and that's the reason why we have to break down the silos in the municipality, because we have duplication in the municipality. and those synergies are not exercised. So it's a funny thing, because I've been on this ship for about 5 months, and every time you get close to bringing it to council, there's a guy that goes on holidays that sits and looks at you, and you waste your time. This is the first time that we talked about space was going to be an issue, because it's a new issue today, because maybe the Wednesday night club never got what they wanted. But I would challenge anybody in the municipality that we can't find people underneath the big umbrella. And I'm glad you met him, Mayor Bowman, because when a guy is given a task, he needs to do that task. I was given a task on behalf of council. I've never met so much internal bureaucracy just to get things done. So I can't imagine how it would be as a business owner try to propel your business. But at the end of the day, I look up and I look over. Mrs. Shroud, I know her last hours in this building weren't that pleasant. And I look at Guy, Doug. I do it because I serve the public, not myself. And when I hear today that you got word through the board, they haven't got room for 9 people. I was part of this board when we had set up that Red Pole Center for exactly these purposes. So shame on the people that say they can't make room. That's our problem. We'll make room, because sooner or later we're going to have to work together, and we won't have 30 people doing the same job. So yeah, I get a little bit passionate, because it's a funny thing, you know. We do the work. I met a guy last night, I think his name was Michael. He must have known me for 10 years, but it was nice to see him in council chambers. But not to your point, how can you deal with headwinds when they make them up as they go? Transparency, I hear all about it. But I got no issues. I'll stay and say that mayor and council, we're too long have we wagged the tail behind the dog. It's up to 11 of us to say there are facilities and we're going to use them, rather than being told what to do. And maybe it's not always popular, but as Guy would say, as Jane would say, peel back the onion and make sure that you work together. And if you can't work together, you have to go with the majority. So I'm sorry, Mr. Bowman, because, you know, I met lots of times in McAllen. That's the first time I've heard, because it wasn't the resolve that people favored. And neither was the snowbird out there that was going to fall off his pedestal. But it's gone.
Thanks, Councillor McGrath. And just to clarify, when you say working together, they did specify, when did talk to the CEO, integrating and under the RSC umbrella, they could do that. What he said is that a corporation moving in on its own entity, they wouldn't have room for that. But I do understand your working together analogy. Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Thank you, Councillor McGrath, for bringing this forward. I just have some questions. So the main meat of your motion is that we should physically move economic development to Mark Island, correct? It's a question.
Did there, Mike, keep going to Mike.
The meat of the motion is, there was always been a concern about the output, the throughput of economic development. And unlike most of the people around the table, when some guy gave me the finger at budget time, I was done. Because I know the people that put their best foot forward, and that's the staff in most cases, the employees. And if you got leadership giving you garbage in and garbage out and there's no oversight, you got 3 ships, one going to Peace River, one going to Florida, and the other one trying to stay on Franklin. We create a whole lot of chaos. So when I base my experience on living in the community, being part of the boards, and keeping an ear open. Right up until we followed through, there was no meetings between the RRC and ECDEV. We're on different paths, but we came from the same purse. So tomorrow, if they were to go into one roof, they'll figure it out. There's a conference room there. There's 20 suites there. Room. My heavens. If that's what we got to champion this evening. And the synergies, Councillor Funky. We paid to renovate a building. We done it. And then we get an administration report that nobody gets. We spend another $1 million on it's like spending money after bad. So it's all about leadership. And if you got no leadership, well, you can't blame the staff. They're only as good as they're led.
Okay.
So to me, it is, we take what we have fostered, knowing that our revenue is going to match your operating budget at some point, and all the Johnny's come latelys will be retired, and my kids won't be able to, buy a house here. It's about righting the ship,
Okay.
and it's our responsibility. And it's a little bit late, maybe. It takes a lot of work here as a councillor, because for you first-time councillors that were waving your signs and going to make big changes, well, God bless you. We learned a lot together.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. I had just started my questions. So did you go through this audit report at all? And are you satisfied that, because what you have said here doesn't address the performance issue, the leadership issue. It doesn't show clear direction or anything change that we expect. I know respectfully you were the one leading the temporary board. Right now we don't have a leadership on grant for economic development. I'm really struggling with the motion. I just have to let you know that that's what it is for me right now. So just to give you some of those questions to ponder on.
Yeah, I want to answer your questions as we go along. So you're asking me, am I familiar with the audit?
Yes.
I was serving this place all summer. I never had the decency to say they were going to audit until somebody told me. Then I called Henry and said, Henry, are we doing an audit? Because, a 360 audit would entail the people that are responsible as a board member that are actually put their hands and signed a paper for fiduciary reasons. So the audit was with our CLO and Henry. Did the staff get interviewed? No. Funky. Okay. It was a paper that was, not that I know for, but the other councillors got a copy of it last night. I didn't know there was an audit until I found out on the street. Okay. That's the disconnect. And that's why there needs to be an audit and budget committee. We won't have these issues.
Thank you. And I thank you through the chair back to Councillor McGrath. And I totally agree with some of what you wrote here. We just don't have how at the moment. There is need for restructuring, realignment.
It's already done.
Resize and definitely redirect. But I'm missing exactly what I want to see, which is the community is tired of us going round in circles. It's time for us to perform. It's time for us to deliver as regards economic development. And I appreciate the good work of yourself, Mayor Bowman, Councillor Weigel, the CAO, and all the people that worked with you. I'm looking for how we want to make some changes to the leadership, and also for us to have a clear vision and be able to give clear expectations to economic development. The community is looking for that.
The CFO just wants to add to that, Councillor McGrath.
Can I answer a question?
If you want to just let CFO maybe address
I can answer your question. No. You asked about structural change. The changes are made. The Florida board chair that we were paying 10 grand, he's gone. The director, he's gone. The group has almost downsized on its own. Improvements in leadership would be monthly meetings, maybe a councillor rep, because we've had a mayor as ex officio, but the mayors are busy here. But we've always had a CAO on the board, always, with voting rights. We never got a report. I think we get them every quarter.
Okay.
So the structural human change, most of it is done. And again, people only, so it has to align with planning and development, and it has to align with our initiatives as a whole, as a region, and utilizing the tools we have, the shared services. So that's the changes, and they're almost done.
Okay.
Let's let the CFO just, Chaz, wanted to chime in.
Thank you.
Through the chair to the comments, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context where the Wood Buffalo Economic Development Corporation audit was concerned. It was included in the 2024 audit plan that was presented to Council and approved by Council. The Wood Buffalo Economic Development CAO and staff were interviewed, and this was prior to the interim board being appointed. So we did follow our plan and we did follow the process, and then once we had a draft report, normally that would have gone back to the management team for comments, but Councillor McGrath, you had requested that draft copy, which we sent to you via email, and it was also sent to the mayor, CAO, and Councillor Weigel. I did not personally send that out to the rest of council. It was not my place to do so. We were required to send it to the board. So I just wanted to clarify the history there, because there were some misunderstandings with the details.
I guess through the chair, Mr. McGrath got a copy of the draft policy when I asked Mrs. Williams to contact the municipality to get a copy. And I would figure that our CAO, knowing that he reports to council, used to, would get a copy automatically to the councillors. And it was a draft, but in that draft, it was never mentioned that we blew $1 million on a renovation that was done to a building that we already had paid for abatement. I sat at this very table. So when you leave stuff like that out, how watered down is the audit? I don't know.
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, respectfully, it was not a forensic audit, which would have accounted for everything. You take samplings, and through those samplings, you provide your findings. That was clearly detailed in the report. Now, the $1 million, as far as the renovations are concerned, had actually been included in previous minutes because they had to use a line of credit in order to fund that. But it was not a part of the audit scope.
Through the chair, what I'm getting at is that before you came, we had paid for the abatement of that building. Asbestos, mold, the works. And then the municipality was given a report in the spring. And then shortly after, we signed a lease with the corp, not disclosing that information. And then because the push was on, we went out to market. And we just paid that off the other day. So that's not a very good investment. And there's always been shared services. Mayor and council just weren't abreast of how far rift we went. So we can challenge each other all the time and talk about forensic audit. This would be a home run for a forensic audit.
Agreed.
We have a municipality that has policies and procedures in place, and none of them were followed. We paid for a trailer that was parked at Vancouver, looking at the water, and coming from a golf tournament. Man, look at this place. And then we talk about economic development. I could have got a trailer off Fun and Fast down the street, up at Goloski's. If we're going to be real and transparent, and all these people talk about ethics, it starts right here in this room. And this is why I guess Councillor Banjoko, I'm a bit passionate, because ever since the day the guy gave us a finger because he couldn't answer a question of council, and we decay our process and our reason for being. And I think that the structural change that we propose is nice to know that we send an internal auditor over, but we've been used in shared services. And if there's any oversight in procurement, we could have made some people not so struggle today with local businesses. And you know what? Shoot me for being myself, but it's good because I've sat around this table and watched it all involve. And I've never seen so many people throw somebody under the bus in public. The life would have to get pretty small for somebody to come in for a few months and you know, it wasn't like this before I came here. And this, there's no I in team, and this is the whole spirit of economic with Buffalo. It's a glue that's going to keep the community together.
Thank you, CFO, and thank you, Councillor McGrath. So thanks for all that, but respectfully, when we all just got the report, just talking about the information that we received, and some of them are, you know, very challenging. So regardless of, I know we only got this report yesterday, but we just have to look at it and see how we can do better. But there's need for accountability. There's need for us to improve on return on our investment. There's need to re-strategize. I don't think we are doing the right thing with economic development. So the motion just didn't address some of the things that I wanted to see. And I know that last night we were all exhausted, or maybe early this morning when we left. So I think we have to look at this again. Thank you, Mayor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me the chance. I have a few questions, and my second question would be after the reply for the first one. I want to ask Mr. McGrath, who is the other councillor with you? One is Stu Weigel and anybody else?
Through the chair to Councillor Doger, we as you know, in a crossroads to an interim board until we went back to the community and got local talent, local knowledge. That's coming. I you know, hopefully will. So yes, there's only one councillor, Councillor Stu Weigel.
Okay, fine.
And our CEO that was always on the board as a voting member. Every CEO that came through, 5 of them, part-time, you know, they were always on the board as a voting member, and not once did I ever hear of any concerns with Buffalo. So as a councillor, sometimes you have to dig in the weeds, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, we're here to serve the people.
Thank you. My next question is that after the comments, after seeing the audit report, it was already discussed in the previous motion was passed about 2-3 months back when the composition was restructured, that look at the audit report, what the audit report says. Now, audit report certainly has a bearing for structural changes. So now, even then, you know, the Stroud said, wait. Okay, we didn't wait. We made a composition, and now we should stick to it. In my point of view, after the death of the Councillor Stroud, 2 veterans, you know, this type of a job, experience is required. All people are very competent. I respect Cardinal for his initiative. I respect Stu Weigel for his dedication, and so as Banjoko. But, you know, no match to experience. And there are only 2 experienced councillors. One is Lance Bussieres and other is Mr. McGrath. Last time was, you know, Mr. McGrath was appointed. I was looking at Mr. Bussieres also. Maybe he gives his availability, but he was busy. So now the choice for experience is with Mr. McGrath. What I know close to his neighborhood, that his job, nature of job is always marketing and moving around, not in Alberta, but in North America, USA also, and Canada also. He's very well linked up and has a passion for marketing. Probably we should see for some time and give him a chance, give him a hand, and you may include another councillor who is quite critical about the issues, and Banjoko is one, and on my left side is also very fertile people. But we should give him a chance and let him produce something, because he couldn't do anything. I know some of my colleagues are not very much satisfied. They were not informed. These were vacations. We were 2 months off. And before that, for audit report, I would say it was a recession, and the results were not there. Now we should stick to something. The responsibility has been given to Mr. McGrath. He has done something, and let's wait for the results. And continuously, maybe you put one or two more to monitor the efficiency on weekly basis, on monthly basis, and quarterly basis. Thank you very much.
I'm touched by your passion, Councillor Dogger, and I don't look for pity, but there's not a whole lot of synergies. That council's role has watered down, and it's a job to get it back, but ECDEV is a job for all of us, and the changes you're looking for, they're done. Now we need to go consult the community and stand up a nimble board. And we had good people on the board before, but maybe they weren't asking the right questions or meeting long enough. I can't change that. But as far as business development goes, it takes a lot of work to see the seed grow to something you pick as a revenue. It takes a while.
Thanks, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Ball?
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor McGrath, your motion has two parts, and I'm a little bit divided on the two parts. Obviously, one is relative to the operations of economic development, and the other is repurposing municipal lands. And I know you've said what they could potentially be used for, but that seems like a bigger discussion, and I'm not comfortable with the two being wrapped together, frankly, because I feel that the second one, the repurposing of municipal lands, is going to get lost in this discussion. So I'd like to have that removed from the motion in some way, shape, or form. Not to say that time, but it seems to be kind of taking a back seat on this conversation as opposed to a front seat, because it is municipal lands and has a significant value.
Through the chair, I'm very amicable to separating the confusion. And thank you, Councillor Ball, because I'm just one vote. There's 10 others. And we're the people that are responsible for the forwardness of the municipality. And you're right, because, Councillor Ball, this has been parked too long, and you know what? It should be separated, because it's in a league of its own, and appreciate it. So I'll take his, you want to call it a friendly amendment, however the process works.
Yeah, whatever.
We can separate that.
I just feel they're two very different topics.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
To clarify, we're removing the section "and the current location be utilized as part of our commitment towards economic reconciliation, Treaty 8, and Métis associations in the RMWB." And I'll bring that forward at a later time. Is that correct?
I'm amicable to that, because I think one time I said it'd be a good place for the seniors and stuff. Cut out too, you know what I mean? So
it could be multiple uses for sure.
Yeah. So I'm certainly amicable to the amending motion, and I appreciate you, Ken, or Councillor Ball, for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've been trying to listen to this whole process, and I certainly had challenges with economic development and understanding its value, purpose, and mission, and all of those things right from Jump Street. And I think as a council, we worked really hard, and I think there was quite a few challenges in the first year. In any event, we got to a point where we felt it necessary to exercise our option, dismiss the board, and then put in a temporary board, which we did, which has already been talked about. Councillor McGrath, Councillor Waggle, CEO Hunter, and then we asked them to bring back recommendations on what to do. That's what we asked. Because they keep hearing this didn't happen or this didn't happen. We did ask that, and they came back with a recommendation which was presented yesterday, which was to amalgamate with the RRC, so on and so forth. So they actually did do their job, did do what we asked them to do, did come back with a recommendation from the board that we appointed. They did that. And then we spent 4 hours debating not doing it yesterday. Not doing the recommendations of the board that we asked for the recommendations. And so here we are today now with a completely different recommendation. I was also on the board of RRC for many, many years, and we have an agreement, an operational agreement within we do things in a certain way within policies and to represent our taxpayers to the best of their ability. And they do that. Red Pole is an agreement or a contract with, my brain just went blank. Who are they? RC. No, United Way. United Way. United Way operates, and there's an agreement in place. Cost them so much rent, they rent out, they're made available to community organizations, social profit sector, that was their mandate, and they're doing that. To just arbitrarily come along and say, well, we're going to pull out that space, we're going to disregard that contract. Yes, we're their owners, but we're the responsible owners that work with. They work really hard to get an organization that runs well, that has good oversight, good accountability, delivers good service and everything else, to just arbitrarily, because we're the owners, say, well, let's ignore all that, because this is what we want, right? I fully respect CEO Walsh coming forward and saying, we were prepared to accommodate this organization based on a request from council. We may be putting 2 people in an office, so on and so forth, to accommodate that. But as a tenant, we didn't have a business plan or an operation to actually make that happen. The other challenge I have with reading this is, it really sounds like all it is moving them. Well, why would we move them? They're already there. Moving them would cost another expense and would create other issues at the RRC. They're already there. Why would we move them if that's the case? Because that, to me, that's all I see is let's move them to the RRC, physical location. And I understand Councillor McGrath. Point of order, I'm talking about the motion.
That's not upheld. We're in debate and discussion, Councillor Toger.
So at the end of the day, we're physically tired. Like, I agree that something else has to happen, but just to move them to create synergies, we can create synergies with the RMWB, with the funders of oversight and so on and so forth in their location, where they are, without having moved them. So if we're not going to do anything else, to me it makes more sense that they stay where they are until we determine how to deal with the entire picture, not just a piece of it. That's my sense of this. Like, you know, at the end of the day, it's been 6 months, and we did get a recommendation, then we're choosing not to follow it. So now we're back to square one. That's the problem I'm finding, is we're back to square one. At the end of the day, I'd really like to see a new board, and our council deals with a new board. Right now, we're dealing with ourselves because we made another board that's council. So we're not dealing with an independent entity. We're dealing with ourselves, and we're just going back and forth and back and forth. In my mind, we need to clean that up in order to have an actual direction to move forward. So I can't support this for those reasons.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Grandison. Councillor McGrath?
Through the chair, I call the Red Pole Centre, it's the brand to me. It wasn't about going down and stripping out the Red Pole Centre. I mean, geez, you guys make mountains out of molehills. If you're around as long me, you call it the Red Pole Center because that's what we branded it as, a space for all. So it's contracts. Who was going to go down and bust up a contract? Across the hall, we have 100% availability to offices. And if you put in the hours to realize that these two entities never met, well, who's going to get the elders' games here? Who's like, if you can't work together, let's put each other under the roofs. And to say that I was going to bust up contracts, no. Well, I've managed 2,000 people in 4 or 5 sites. I kind of know our contract obligations. It's the neutral gear we're stuck in. And if you can't get people to work together, put them under the same roof so we get some work done. It's like planning and development. They're now on the first floor, right? We're bringing things together. The energy, we're bringing the energies together. Now, Mayor Bowman, that's to address the red pole. I don't want people to think this evening I was going to go down and tell Greg, well, you got to bust some contracts. No, the Red Pole Center identified that end of the building that was meant to be a community for all and working with different people. And as far as a board decision, well, when you find out, when you total up the cash envelope of 50 million, do you want to park it or do you want to move it and get it working? Well, there's no oversight. So, yeah, there is some. And we would have had this dealt with for probably a couple of months ago if I didn't have some guy that, was sent over to anybody ask him, we don't know what we're doing. And then sit down in the afternoon with Henry and the partner from the city and Stu in good faith and spend 4 or 5 hours of your life not getting holidays. And then get home and 10 o'clock at night, I'm sorry to tell you, man, I'm gone away for 3 weeks. That's the stuff that people don't see. It's not about us internally. I would say that the move was to put some synergies back into to make it work. This picture that people paint to something like the radar when we try to take it out, we wanted to cause accidents. We can paint any picture, but at the end of the day, through the chair, I ask a planning development question. I got to do what you got to do with the debate.
It's in relation to the motion.
Yeah, it sure is. Putting everything under the same roof. Economic development, Councillor Banjoko. In that audit, we've dispersed. What would we be at today? I guess Trudy. What would we be at today with the revitalization of downtown for ECDEV? I know we dished out the dough. Anybody know where we're at? I know there's a second train coming, right?
You mentioned Councillor Banjoko. Who's the question for?
Yeah, because Councillor Banjoko talked about the report and the IC report. I did, but what I don't see is the exposure we have going ahead. So my question was to administration, how much money have we spent with the local business downtown for improvements that was meant to spin off ECDEV? It's not in the audit.
So is the question for Councillor Banjoko or for administration?
I'm sorry, I was looking at for people that would know the tally. So we're CEO, that's the only employee we got.
Amanda?
So yeah, I don't have that.
Turn on mic on. Turn mic, Henry.
Can somebody help me out, because there's a price tag on all of this. So having the courage to say that, yeah, we got to keep it as a Part 9 to honor the grants and commitments. But I also want you to see that it's not about going down and tearing apart the Red Pole Center. It's about putting some people in the right place so we can share the service, share the facilities, and lower operating costs and get people to work together, because maybe some down the road we won't be able to afford having 30 different organizations, having 30 different ways.
Thanks, Councillor McGrath.
I'm not finished.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Grandison.
at the end of the day, Mr. Mayor, through the chair, there's a couple of things. I just want to publicly go out and say that we don't have an organization that is as willing to work with council and our administration as RRC in this whole community. Like, they have bent over backwards and work always, and many times do work that we don't all see, because administration puts requests, they do research, and it doesn't go. But they do a lot of work, and they work with us. And I don't disagree. I absolutely support synergies. I just don't think a move creates them, especially when the organization, you know, they're going to be fragmented or whatever, because they're not going to be they're going to be crammed in all over the place. And it doesn't make any sense. They're already in a place. To me, that just makes no sense at all. And all of the rest of the things, I absolutely, we need synergies, we need this, we need to manage municipal dollars. I'm just not so sure how moving them accomplishes any of that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Grandison. Councillor Banjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to beat this to death, but moving them is not what we're looking for. They're physical wherever they're working from. Some people even work remotely. It doesn't mean they can perform and deliver to terms. So there have been, you know, references to the board. We had a temporary board, or we have a temporary board maybe till today, and we are now reviewing the report and the way forward. And I think one of the important things that we need to fix is the board. Right now, we had a temporary board, and they did do some work. We don't have a reboard, and that will be one of the things we need to address. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Dogar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Why I asked the point of order said that we should speak. The words should speak, not the body language or emotional or laughing on others. That was my point. Going forward, the next point is that, you know, we need to see in this economic development, a lot of public listening is required. And people go to golf game to have improved public listening. And Mr. McGrath is one who is a great golfer all over. The next point is about the indigenous community, First Nation. They have to be given importance, and we should deeply know their culture, and their interests should be watched. Yes, we have a few Métis councillors, they are doing it, rightly so. But Mr. McGrath is also working in an organization which is dealing with indigenous people, First Nation people. That is number one. Then, because of his experience and confidence, he can push around the things. So let's watch him for some time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dogar. Councillor McGrath?
I would just say, you know, no show voting here. We have invested millions and millions of dollars, and you know, it's everybody's right that gets this chair. 3 years ago, you were hanging signs talking about wasteful spending and oversight and all this kind of stuff. We're putting these chairs to feel uncomfortable every now and then. And, I had the support internally. We could pull this over pretty quick. We all knew there was trouble. I talked about it, and nobody listened. So here we are. We can go around and make hours of meetings and grandstand all you want. But at the end of the day, I'm not happy with separating the motion. And I wasn't going to look to move people tomorrow morning. The transition is going to happen. So it's either going to happen by virtue and support, or it's just going to happen. And as far as the RC goes, wasn't so long ago on a New Year's Eve, we were trying to chase the guy out of the place, and we put up our hands. Councillors, I don't think so. So I'd like to, you know, I don't want to spend hours debating it, because if I got to debate it, the common sense known that we never met the RC as a board. We never used the synergies. Man, if we'd done that, just imagine, hey, just imagine 2 corporations working together. Wow. We might get something done. And the bigger piece of that, is the grace I had watching graduating more Indigenous kids in Canada through the Catholic School District, working with the other districts, watching the kids go to McAllen. They could be there all day, and we could produce more Phillips, Darren Gibbs. We could, Sheldon and these the water skiing thing. So economic development in bringing home to our showcase. And like I say, we can beat her all to death. But talking about the length of time it takes, well, I tried to get in front of you guys before the summer break. We can't go back and change yesterday. But boy, I tell you what, we can sure look ahead and know that in the final leg of 12 years, we get a couple of home runs and support one another, but basically support the people that put in these chairs in the first place.
Thanks, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Cardinal?
No, I'm ready to vote in opposition, so let's get going.
Okay, so a vote's been called. We'll call for a vote. It's separate. The motion, we took off the second part earlier as a friendly amendment to look at later.
Opposed.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. We're voting right now, Councillor Dogar. Councillor Ball, are you able to vote online?
Already said opposed, so.
Okay, thank you. I didn't pick that up. Thanks, Councillor Councillor Ball. And that's been defeated with against. If council has just before we move on next motion. No, we have another motion. I have a motion to put forward, Councillor McGrath. No, the motion defeated. No, that motion was never put on the floor. The motion yesterday, Councillor Cardinal put on was defeated. I have a motion I want to put forward, so I'm going to give up my chair to Councillor Cardinal or Councillor Grandison. Can I?
All right. So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to read out your motion, please. Done.
Thank you. That the mayor be directed to exercise the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo's membership rights in the Wood Buffalo Economic Development Corporation and execute a written special resolution of the members appointing the remaining members of council as directors of the board of directors. And that administration undertake a public recruitment campaign and bring forward all applicants received to council for review in closed session for the purpose of replacing the existing directors of the Wood Buffalo Economic Development Corporation, adding 2 non-voting council members by the end of December 2024. The board members will be required to be permanent residents of the region, and that the corporation's new board of directors return to council within 90 days of appointment to make recommendations and provide options on the reduced budget, shared services approach with the municipality, and any other recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do I have a second? Looking around.
I second that.
Councillor Banjoko is first with hands up, I think. Sorry, I didn't see you all up there. So now, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to speak to your motion.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just as we've seen yesterday, speaking to the public and even us around the table, we didn't have a lot of information really in front of us. Like as Councillor McGrath alluded to, you had to peel back the onion. To a lot of members of the public. I was at a large event today, and this was a huge topic at that event. Me and Councillor Banjoko and Councillor Dogar actually attended an event today, and this was a big topic. They're like, why is the public not being brought to this conversation? And even yesterday, we had several members of the public come forward to speak to the benefits of it, to what they think should be changed, how it should be changed. So my thought is we need to do exactly what we struck out to, and maybe this motion is what we maybe should have done back 4 months ago when we decided to do this, is actually put out a thing for engagement to get the public's input and get members of the public that want to volunteer to be part of this. I've said this before and said it many times, our biggest asset in this community is the people. We have a lot of people in this community. Councillor McGrath names them almost every meeting. A lot of these names in the that have done a lot of things, that came here with nothing, that built empires out of that, whether it be through innovations or working for industry or even starting their own companies. And we talk about, even Councillor Cardinal brings up Indigenous. One of our pioneers of Indigenous pioneers was at the event today speaking. He has his Indigenous companies not only here, but right through to Brazil, all over Canada. And he could live anywhere in the world, but he chooses to live in this community. You have him, we talk about other people in the community that came from anything. We have real estate agents even that made their way here that could definitely be on a board like this. We talk about bringing people in the community. What the original mandate of this was to bring people here and get people to live here. And some people came to design that. They knew the recipe to that. It's just that somewhere along the lines, things got mixed up. And I think this is the way to bring it back to that original mandate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. So I guess Councillor McGrath, you're first up.
The two members of council be graced to attend meetings and have no voting rights. Well, you might as well just put a mannequin in the corner. I just find that what an effort, what lowballing goes on around the municipality, and I'm kind of discontent that we come back with the same spirit today because we get a bit of social media, because we go to a couple of meetings, we lose sight of what's important. I couldn't be disheartened more this evening to see the efforts that people put in. This place would suck the life out of the devil. And thanks, Mayor Bowman, for putting the motion forward, because if we weren't so trigger happy a few months ago, we could have done it properly, as you say. But everybody here wants to be the champ until that headwind comes and gets us. You know, the CA over here. I was strapped all summer, screwed around, and we're back to exactly what we left. But at the price of a lot of people suffering. The suffering it's not tangible. It's not tangible. And the hot dogs that are here this evening, I hope you can live with the moral price that you put on people. As far as your motion goes, was the motion that, other than disembarking the ship that they call Economic Wood Buffalo. I'm glad that the Economic Wood Buffalo people, too, can say that at the end of the day. This was a complete overhaul, but I learned a lot. And watch who you have breakfast with and drink your coffee with, because you could choke by noon. And if nobody around this table sees the absence of synergies and carry on and water down this council's role in the community and piss away millions of dollars and have every CAO watch what went on here and then hand down a floozy old report, And it's sickening. And, you know, DJ, I can see why they expedited her departure. And I'm talking about this motion. What this motion does, it solidifies the fact that it's tough to be a councillor and to talk about stuff in camera when it's already a move of brift. You know, I'm glad you go to these events, but we still have that big facility over there. Why not? We'll go another few years and we'll keep her solo here. We'll keep her solo here. Because you were the guys that paid the guy 10 grand a month. And once, and he gave you the finger, and you were okay with that. I would say I'll support your motion because it's just time wasted here. It really is. We go back to your motion, your people. We were going to lay off 500 people one day. Hey, Henry, Holy Thursday, 10 to 4, 4 o'clock. We're not doing it anymore. It's all comes back to council, and we'll wear it. We'll wear it because until we have a stabilized, as Al would say, through the chair, RC, me and Ron Morgan, God bless you, Irv Williams passed the key, Carolyn Slade. We can go back and talk about years, but there's no point. We need to use, I guess, some common sense, and as we go forward, I hope someday that you'll see the value in Red Pole Centre being the home of such a catalyst group of people. So that in the mornings, maybe when there's a concert to be grabbed or an elders convention to be grabbed, or maybe that airplane that's supposed to stop at the airport and help the business owners, because that's totally missed in your audit. You can take your audit and water it down and keep it going, but myself, I'll stand up and say, I serve the citizens, not just on election day, not just on a campaign. I don't look at Facebook to be famous. We missed the boat. And God bless you for your motion, because it's right back to where we were. We had a board. We had a board. We had a CAO. They never told us what was going on. You had to dig around. And when you find there's some ignition to trying to do something, we come back and we put two members of council on the board, non-voting. You might as well just go there for story time. I've seen councillors sit on boards. What's the point to a meeting if it's going to come back to council anyways? It's going to come back to council. That's why we get these standing committees, and maybe we could, do better the next time around, or the people around the table that started the campaigns a month ago. But I'll support your motion, and I don't know if it's going to take a lot of debate. I hope it don't.
I have to turn my mic on to say thank you. All right, I believe Councillor Ball was next in the queue.
Thank you, through the chair. I get just one question about the motion. Is there a particular reason why the council roles would be non-voting?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Ball. No, the reason is because most of the committees and boards we're on aren't voting. That's all.
I'm on the aging committee. It's a voting role, so just curious if there's a reason why. So
yeah, no, and if the council wanted to change that to that, I would have no problem with that amendment. But it's just that was how I worded it, as most of the committees and boards are non-voting.
I think it gives us some skin in the game if we have a voting.
For sure.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ball. Mr. Cardinal?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Grandison. Thanks for bringing the motion forward, Mayor Bowman. Can I have the administration kindly have the motion in view on the board or sent to me so I can just make sure that I reviewed properly? And I agree with Councillor Ball, if we could I got the gist of the motion, but I just want to have it visual so I'm able to see it. If I can have it kindly emailed to me on my other phone here, I'd like to take and review it, but I'd kindly request that we make that amendment that Councillor Ball had just mentioned, and that we keep an eye on the ship. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Somebody will email that to you.
Should get it here right away.
All right. Councillor Dogar.
Thank you, Deputy. Well, surely I will support the motion, and because it is Mayor's motion. And I tell you a little light incident of 2 years back. You see, I came back from the washroom. I'm a regular visitor of the washroom. And I came back, Mayor was sitting here in my chair. And it was voting going on, I voted for it. And once I voted, and after the voting, Jade Brown I asked her, what was the motion? He said, you just voted and you don't know what is the motion. I said I didn't vote for the contents, I voted for because it was Mayor's motion. So as a respect, I will do it. But you know, I remember that initially I had been visited 2-3 times, and then the CEO of Economic Development, he acknowledged it, and Mayor was very kind also to ask me to keep visiting, if he remembers it or not. But I don't know what is the point of that we will not vote for it. It is a question on the competency or the honesty. You know, this is not understood to me. And specifically mention about it, you know, of course the councillors would go as the reason and logic would go. Thank you. This is my question.
Thanks, Councillor Dogar. Similar question to Councillor Ball, so a similar answer. Most of the committees and that we sit on boards are non-voting, and that's the reason I had that on there. There was no other reason.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Dogar. Councillor Banjoko.
I missed some of the discussions.
I can't, what she said? Oh, yeah. All right, Councillor Waggle.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through the chair. As said previous by many councillors, I will support the motion. I do appreciate it on the floor. I do believe that economic development has done a huge job to turn around and to move it forward. I do think it does need new oversight, but I don't necessarily think that we have boards for many things, and when things go wrong, we need to look at the leadership, and we've done that. And so I think getting good leadership on there. I do agree with Councillor McGrath. There is more intent on boards that we do have votability, as well as we represent a major stakeholder within the community. And I think that was one of the issues that was the problem with the board. So I would ask for, at this point, for a friendly amendment to you, Mr. Mayor, to add officially into this that the 2 councillors on the board are voting members.
Yes, thanks for asking for that. That's what I'm waiting for.
Okay.
And that will be taking out the word non and leaving, so we'll be adding 2 voting council members, removing the word not. Awesome. Thanks, Councillor Weigel.
And thank you, Councillor McGrath, for bringing that forward.
Okay. So we have the amended motion now, and Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was trying to be careful not to speak off point because I don't know if what I'm about to say has been said already. And if we could just the amended motion, so that I don't waste everybody's time if that has been taken care of. Is this the final version?
I can just get.
Because I think Councillor Ball brought up a point. I wasn't here, but I think everybody kept saying Councillor Ball.
It's on the board, Councillor Banjoko, but I believe that the issue that was brought up was making the council members voting members versus non-voting. I believe that was the issue that was discussed.
Okay.
And the mayor has agreed to a friendly amendment allowing it to be voting members.
Okay. And I don't know if we need to put anything in the motion, but I think us as councillors, mayor and councillors, we need to have clear terms for economic development going forward. I think it's not, I don't know if the terms is clear to economic development, the people who work there. I don't know if mayor was on the temporary board or is still on the temporary board. That part is not clear to me because one area where they've missed the mark so badly is the presence in the rural. And I don't think it's so difficult to be able to have impact or presence at the rural level. So there are some things that are almost frustrating, to put it mildly. So I think we need to do some work on our part. So I don't know if there's need to put anything, I don't know.
Thanks, Councillor Banjoko. With that, I think that'll be what the board, when the board comes back, when the new board's in place and comes back, then we can give them those directions that we'd like, when the members of council are appointed to that board, that we give them direction. We'd like to see that rural part included, and especially we get to Indigenous tourism or that experience. I've talked many times with Councillor Cardinal. Him and I've had discussion about just Old Fort, maybe ice fishing.
Yes.
It's such an awesome spot to be able to get to, but if we had someone on that board that had the experience, just for, as Councillor Cardinal does, that could go up on side-by-sides and arrange that, because he has the experience and the knowledge and knows the people that do it, that could arrange that and have a tour to go up on sleds or whatever and go ice fishing for a day and come back. We can start to get those synergies. And you see, I think we have a lot of things in place and a lot of good things with economic development, and they're ready to go, and a lot of big things coming. And one of those things, speaking to legacy tourism, are things like that, but having a landing page. What we lack right now is a place. For example, I could talk to Kendrick right now and find out someone to take me hunting, fishing, sled dog right now. But for somebody coming into the community, that doesn't exist. So if there's a landing page on economic development, similar to banff.com, if you want to go horseback riding, you want to do dog sleds, you want to do whatever, you go on there and you click on that contact. And so Councillor Cardinal being on the board could get those contacts and bring them forward. And they might be more, as Ms. Sweeta mentioned, she'd been talking to a lot of Indigenous communities. Councillor Cardinal, Director Fraser have that direct contact and that trust with some of the community members that do those services. They can help get those landing pages forward. And as Councillor McGrath mentioned, that's a miss that I think we've missed for a long time. Okay. I even spoke to some people today at the event about things like that, and they really want to get involved as well. So I think that'll be something the board will bring back, but that's something the councillors that are on the board can advocate for and really push for and champion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my final question for now is, so we're going to open up for recruitment and all that. So what happens in the next 90 days? What's the plan?
Well, as with the motion, the administration will do a public recruiting campaign to the end of December. We'll have the members put in by the end of December. They'll have 90 days to come back with reduced budget, a shared service approach with the municipality, and other recommendations. That board will come back, including the 2 council members, myself as ex officio. I'll be there as well. So we'll come back with that for council at that time. Okay, so do we leave the temporary board on? No, that's my question now. What will happen was that after this is passed, that council will be the board until that board's appointed. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, thank you. Sorry. We should, yeah, sorry. So that's what I'm thinking. At this point, I would like for council to take back the leadership for the 90 days. Thank you.
Just a second. Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Dogar.
Thank you, Deputy. I appreciate the point given by Councillor Stu, and thanks to Mayor for acknowledging it and making some amendment. Certainly it speaks good of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dover.
Thank you, Councillor Dogar. All right, Councillor Ball? Yeah, I see you there, Councillor Kendrick.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I guess the other question I had relative to the board members is how many people on the board? I mean, I get there's 2 councillors, but what is the makeup of the rest of the board, or is that undetermined?
I didn't determine that at the moment. I think council could determine that as the new board.
In the bylaws.
Right. How many were on the old board? I don't recall.
7.
Was it 7 before?
Apparently it was between 9 and 11, according to RCO.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, I guess a quantified representation from council. If it was 20 people on the board, were obviously 10%. So, all right.
Apparently, I just got clarity, Councillor Ball. It's between 10 and 13.
10 and 13
or 9 and 13. I apologize.
On the previous board, is that something we're targeting for this board, this new board, or are we looking at lower numbers, like 7 or 8 or?
Well, I think with 2 councillors, CEO, and then as long as you had odd numbers, so I would say 8 on top of that. So it'd be the same number as council, I think. I'll give you that odd number.
Okay.
But that's open for discussion with council.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ball. Mr. Cardinal. Councillor Cardinal.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Grandison. I kind of wanted to talk about shared services. How would the shared services look? Because I know that I sit and talk about the audit report a little bit again, because shared services agreement wasn't followed right off the bat. So I just wanted to get maybe a context from CAO or our administration, or you or yourself, Mayor. How would shared services agreement be handled? Because I'd sooner have, I'd like to have the discussion, or if we could have it later, but I want to know how would that all look from a shared services perspective, and financially. I'm not comfortable with the outcome of this audit, and I do know that there's new staff or it's a whole changeover, but paper doesn't lie, and numbers don't lie, and I'm not comfortable with having without moving forward without an explanation about how our shared services are going to be.
I think CEO Hunter is up. How do you turn his mic on? Oh, you can do it all by yourself.
Through the chair to Councillor Cardinal, there's currently shared services in place for finance and for HR services to the Economic Development Corporation, and that's what I would see basically continuing. The likes of, in the previous administration of the organisation, there was difficulty dealing with them. Our finance had a number of issues, and that's what actually brought forward the requirement for to have the audit, was the difficulties we were having dealing with them, and also some of the comments that came forward as sort of whistleblowers during an engagement of the employees. So those are the 2 HR services and finance services that would continue. And what happens is finance usually provides a finance officer who will work closely with the organisation to help them through the budgeting process and identifying any issues.
So, no, that's it for now. I guess I do kind of wanted to discuss a little bit about how I'll be supporting the motion and how important it is to acknowledge our as Mayor Bowman kindly put me in the spot there, but acknowledge our rural communities and not always have them at arm's length when it comes to stuff that are important to them, especially land on the land activities and tourism. everybody really admires. I mean, there's a lot of big majority of people that really admire the culture of the Métis, Dene, and Cree, and all other First Nations people that are a part of the rural communities and our region in Fort McMurray. I just know that it's a big, monumental goal to be able to have us work on that Indigenous reconciliation, Indigenous economic reconciliation strategy. I think it's important that we move towards that as soon as the board is adjusted, and I'll be supporting the motion. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to acknowledge everybody's interest, and it was a really good debate, and I'm just looking forward to moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Wagle.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to call for a vote.
All right. Do we do that, man? We have to do it by hand, correct?
We do it by hand, so we really need to see everyone's hands.
All right. So we need to vote by hand. So in favor and up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's unanimous. That's carried unanimously. So
I'd like to thank everyone, and also as this is moving forward, as the council will be the board until a new council is appointed, I would anticipate that Councillor McGrath would remain the chair and Councillor Weigel would remain the vice chair until the new board is in place.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks again, everyone.
Relinquish the chair back to you. You can have the big chair.
We do Heritage.
And also if council has no objections, I want to defer items 6.2 and 6.3 to the next regular council meeting, just in observation of the time we spent here last night and today. So it's 6.2 and 6.3 deferred to the next meeting if council has no issue with it. And with that, we'll have a 10-minute break here, everyone.
I'm going to go on.
Welcome back, everyone. Next, we have a report on the account write-off policy, FIN 080. I'd like to invite Laura Farquharson, Corporate Services, to introduce the report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Laurie Farquharson, Chief Financial Officer. I'm here this evening to present revisions to the account write-off policy FIN 080, which provides guidance for managing outstanding accounts receivable. This includes municipal utility, general trade, and ambulance accounts, as well as outstanding property tax accounts. The policy sets clear guidelines for identifying and managing uncollectible receivables within the municipality, ensuring that any write-off of outstanding debts are handled consistently and transparently. A thorough assessment of debt is a critical step before an account write-off occurs. The municipality is committed to taking all reasonable and appropriate collection actions before considering a debt as uncollectible, including ongoing efforts to recover outstanding amounts and maintain due diligence throughout the process. The policy reflects the municipality's commitment to responsible fiscal management. By adhering to these guidelines, we ensure that every effort is made to recover outstanding debts while maintaining fairness and transparency in our financial practices. Administration is recommending that the account write-off policy dated October 23rd, 2024, as outlined in Attachment 1, be approved. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do you have any questions from Council? I'm not seeing any. Thanks, Laurie. Do we have any delegates to this item?
We have no delegates for this item, thanks.
Can I get someone to make the motion? Councillor Grandison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that account write-off policy FIN 080 dated October 22, 2024 as outlined on Attachment 1 be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. And thank Councillor Banjoko for the second. Do we have any comments, debate points, or discussion? Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, CFO. Just for our education, for public education, could you share with us the steps that we're taking to try and recover the unpaid bills that we are writing off?
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, I actually don't have those details. We have two dedicated collection people who will go through the account. They will contact the whoever has the outstanding balance, and depending on the nature of the outstanding debt, say for the sake of discussion, it's trade. Once it goes beyond a certain time period, then the accounts are suspended. There's a multitude of standard operating procedures that the team would go through, but we've tightened up our policies over time to ensure that account balances do not get large.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Banjoko. Do we have any other comments, debate points, or discussion from Council? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote.
In favor.
Thank you. I have Councillor Ball, Councillor Cardinal, and Councillor Weigel in favor as well. That's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next, I have the report on the 2024 Q2 financial performance report. I'd like to invite Laura Ferguson to remain seated and read that report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Laurie Farquharson, Chief Financial Officer. Administration is recommending acceptance of the 2024 Q2 Financial Performance Report as information. As of June 30th, 2024, the budget year-to-date variance column shows timing differences based on monthly allocations of the budget, as well as differences that may impact year-end results. The projected year-end results show a $4.22 million surplus at year-end. The year-to-date operating revenues to June 30th, 2024 are $321 million. On an annual basis, the revenue projection is $635.6 million, which is an increase of $24 million over budget. The increase in revenue is related to additional tax revenue of $33 million, government transfers of $2.7 million, sales and user charges of $1.8 million, and increases in tax penalties of $850,000. Of note, the return on investments is projecting revenue of $20.5 million, which is $15 million less than the annual budget of $35.4 million. It's important to note that the annual investment budget in 2022 and 2023 was less than $20 million. The 2024 budget target was based on the economic outlook at the time, where interest rates would remain higher for longer periods. Additional impacts to the total return on investment income includes inflation was lower than anticipated in Q1. As a result, RBC sold the real return bonds to minimize losses. Real return bonds are inflation protection bonds. They earn more if the anticipated inflation rate occurs. In our case, inflation moved in the opposite way than expected and was projected to drop further, so the bonds were sold. While the $8 million loss was realized in 2024, the bonds have been held since 2019 and have earned inflation, compensation, and interest in the amount of $7.3 million in previous years. The realized result over the duration of the bonds is $927,000. In addition, lower than anticipated interest rates is due to declining interest rates and lower than anticipated cash flow. This is a result of delayed grant funding and cash flowing DRP events as a result of the province no longer providing advances. The year-to-date operating expenses to June 30th, 2024 are $247.4 million. On an annual basis, the expense projection is $471.8 million, a reduction of $2.2 million from the annual budget. Underspending is realized in salaries and benefits, contract and general services, and materials, goods, and supplies. The increase in provision for allowance is offset by the increase in penalties on taxes, which is attributed to one taxpayer. The increase in transfers to individuals and organizations is a flow-through from a grant, which is accounted for in the other revenue increase. The municipality approved the 2024 capital budget of $170 million. As of June 30th, 2024, the capital budget has been increased stemming from capital budget amendments approved by Council since January 1st. As of June 30th, $39.6 million has been spent on the delivery of capital initiatives, which includes multi-year projects. The top three projects based on expenditures to June 30th are the Public Works North Facility, Fort Mackay Community Centre, and flood mitigation construction, representing 30.9% of the year-to-date spend. The current amount of cash in the bank plus investments totals $1,277 million as of June 30th, 2024. The commitment against this balance includes $309 million for operating and capital requirements and $46 million in deferred revenue and $682.3 million in committed reserve funds. For 2024, the municipality has been awarded grants totaling $32.8 million during the first two quarters. This is comprised of $24.7 million in capital grants and $8.1 million in operating grants. Applications continue to be submitted as grant opportunities arise. The municipality has had many extraordinary events that we continue to monitor on the books. We've remained committed to working with the government and other providers in relation to recoverable expenses. To date, the municipality has spent $1.4 million on supporting evacuees from the Northwest Territories during the 2023 Fort Fitzgerald fire, which we anticipate receiving 100% of the expenses recovered. Efforts continue to evaluate expenses and submit to the province for the 2023 Rocky River fire. It is estimated that the total expenses incurred are $8.2 million, of which 90% is recoverable. The municipality has spent $33.4 million in recoverable breakup costs since April 2020. To date, the Government of Alberta has advanced $20 million for reimbursable expense, and under the DRP, and our insurance provider has advanced $500,000. As of March 30th, 2024, $32.1 million has been submitted to DRP or is a submission in progress. The municipality continues to look for cost efficiencies while providing the programs and services as outlined in the 2024 operating budget. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Lori. Do we have the recoverable expenses from the river breakup? Do you have what the total expense was on that for the municipality?
One moment. Through the chair to the chair, could you please repeat the question?
I know what the recoverable expense was from the river breakup. I'm just wondering what the actual expense was.
Through the chair to the chair, the RMWB project estimate, so it's all costs that we believe in total is $33.3 million.
Okay.
And we have, that was the estimate, and to date, we have identified $33.4 million in costs, which we will receive 90% back.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Dogar, your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam, thank you very much for the nice presentation always, and more so before the budget is coming. You are warming up very well for the budget. And there is a interest rate down today. Would it affect the interest rate that your statement has or no?
Through the chair to Councillor Dogar, indeed it has. Last year we were realizing approximately 5.5% to 6% interest income just on our bank balances.
Yes.
And then with the decline in interest rates, we're now seeing approximately 3%.
So it would be worked out. So we are benefit out of this. Some amount is there in the banks?
No. Through the chair to Councillor Dogar, in 2023, we realized significant additional interest income over and above what we had budgeted for, which was part of the reason why we were a bit more hopeful in the current fiscal year that we would actually see higher interest rate returns. And unfortunately, with the decline in interest rates by essentially 50% and declining bank balances, we're seeing a lot less interest income.
Thank you, Madam.
Thanks, Councillor Dogar. Do we have any other questions? I'm not seeing any. Do we have any delegates for this item?
We have no delegates for this item. Thank you.
Thanks. Can I have someone make that motion? Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the 2024 Q2 Financial Performance Report be accepted as information.
Thanks, Councillor Grandison, for the second. Do we have any comments, debate points, or discussion? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote. That's carried unanimously, everyone. And because I was jumping around, moving back to 2.3, I'd like to have the 2024 reserve bids and sale conditions for tax sale purposes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Once again, I am Lori Farquharson, Chief Financial Officer. I'm here this evening to present the annual reserve bids for tax sale properties. Administration has exhausted all attempts to collect the tax arrears on 147 properties. The outstanding balance of the 147 accounts as of October 23, 2024 is $989,618.97. Under the provision of the Municipal Government Act, Council must establish reserve bids and any terms and conditions that apply to the sale of a parcel of land. The municipality will offer the lands for sale by public auction in the Jubilee Building, 3rd floor boardroom, 9909 Franklin Avenue, Fort McMurray, Alberta, on Thursday, March 31st, 2025 at 10 a.m. Under Section 418 of the Municipal Government Act, municipalities must offer for sale at public auction any parcels of land shown on the tax arrears list if the tax arrears are not paid by a certain date. The municipality can still enter into payment arrangement agreement with the owner up to the date of the sale if the owner does not breach the terms of the agreement. As of October 22nd, 2024, agreements for payment of tax arrears have been reached between the municipality and the owners of parcels of land on 105 properties listed on the tax arrears list, and 3 properties have actually been paid in full. The Assessment and Taxation Branch of the Corporate Services Division determined the reserve bids and reflected market value by comparing sales of properties similar to the tax recovery properties. Details of the reserve bids and conditions of the sale as of October 23, 2024. Administration will continue to reach agreements and/or receive payments until the date of the public auction, and properties will continue to be removed from the list. Administration is recommending that the reserve bid and sale conditions be established as listed on Attachment 1, dated October 23, 2024. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lori. Just a question that for properties rear that's going up for auction, the taxpayer has the ability to come in any time before that auction starts to make arrangements?
Through the chair to the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Lori, it always sounds really scary when we come up with the big numbers, but I believe normally before the sale actually happens, many of these issues get resolved. Is that not correct? That we'll actually be dealing with very few at the end?
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, that is correct. When I presented this in 2022, all accounts had been either paid or arrangements were made. Last year, there were considerable amount of a higher volume on the list, and we only had 4 that went to public auction.
Okay, so basically this, through the MGA, we have to go through all these hoops, but at the end, when the consumer finishes going through the hoops, they generally step up to the plate, right?
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, that is correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Grandison. Do we have any other questions? I'm not seeing any. Do we have any delegates to this item?
We have no.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Cardinal.
I just guess so. We got 105 that we've settled, and so that leaves us with what, another 30, 40. Did I lose us there?
Through Chair to Councillor Cardinal, I'm operating on 3 hours sleep. I apologize. Basic math is evading me. So we started with 147 accounts that are in arrears. We have 3 properties who have come forward and paid their balance, and we have 105 who are on actively making payment arrangements.
Oh, okay, that's what I missed. I thought there was 140. I mean, 105 paid in full. So I misconstrued that. But I appreciate the response, Director Ferguson. I guess. Do they have time to? What's the time to pay? Or are we just working with them to get it paid off? A certain time to pay.
Through the Chair to Councillor Cardinal, I can't recall the exact details. They would have to make payment arrangements, and it would probably be determined on their, how much they could pay, what the value of the outstanding debt is. There would be different variables, and the team would work with them to make those arrangements. And as long as they follow through and they don't default, then their property would be taken off the list at March 31st.
Okay, thanks. So what would happen with the existing ones that are not compliant?
So if there are no payment arrangements made and nobody comes and pays the debt, it will go to public auction on March 31st.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's all I just wanted clarity on. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Cardinal. Do we have any other questions? I'm not seeing. Do we have any delegates for this item?
We have no delegates for this item. Thank you.
Can I have someone read the motion? Councillor Grandison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the reserve bids and sales conditions be established as listed in Attachment 1, dated October 22nd, 2024. At the right
Thanks,
one.
Councillor Grandison. And thanks for a second, Councillor Banjoko. Do we have any other debate, discussion, or comments from council? I'm not seeing, so I'll call for a vote.
In favor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Ball. Sorry, I did that. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. With that, moving on to 6.4. I know we were kind of all over the place there, but I'll ask Councillor Grandison to read out his motion, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that administration work with the Fort McMurray Heritage Society and the Fort Chipewyan Bicentennial Museum to review and bring forward options to create a regional heritage society that includes the Heritage Shipyard, the Heritage Village, and Fort Chipewyan Bicentennial Museum.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Would you like to speak to that motion?
Oh, we need a second first. No?
Oh, sorry.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Ball.
Okay. So I'm sure many of my colleagues have read this Heritage Resource Management Plan, this document, and essentially the Culture and Heritage Master Plan reveals alarming gaps in the preservation of our culture and our heritage. That's on us as a municipality, in my mind, not necessarily on Fort McMurray Heritage Society. We haven't done a great job in investing in the preservation of valuable assets that honor our heritage and all the cultures, particularly Indigenous culture, that make up this region. I believe there needs to be a plan in place to begin to address these identified gaps, and admin needs to work with our heritage group, societies, and right holders to get this plan done with strategies to address and fill these gaps. This motion will allow will allow that process to start immediately. I hope I can count on my council colleagues for support. I was going to give you an example that when Councillor Bussieres' father, rest his soul, passed, and they were cleaning up, he had truckloads of archives that were being stored in his house to preserve them because we had no place to preserve them at Heritage Park, right? This has been a long-standing issue for many, many years. So my hope is that administration working with these organizations, there's funding, all kinds of funding that's available from the federal and provincial governments to support museums, to support our culture and our history. There's a new mandate that's been identified in this too. I've certainly heard people talk about, you know, the amount of activities that are at Heritage Park. Well, the new mandate from the province requires museums and historical societies to do public activities that promote the culture and heritage, which is what they're doing, right? So this to me is a win-win because we get to preserve our culture, our history. We have the oldest museum, the oldest community in Alberta is in Fort Chip. We have an amazing amount of artifacts and things that are up there that are at risk if we collectively as a region don't take better care of them. So that's the basis of the motion, and it's to work with the existing societies to come up with something that's manageable for all parties with good oversight and accountability built into it. So that's the task that I'm asking administration to take on.
Thanks, Councillor Grandison. Just one thing I'd like to, the motion you read is slightly different than the motion we have on our papers here. So if you can address that so we can make sure it's in the record properly.
Yes, I do apologize. It was an amended motion. After having reviewed it with administration, it made more sense to present it this way, which gives administration flexibility to look at all available options and bring back to council to support this. So that's the reason it was amended.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Can you get it read again?
Reread the, okay.
Yes,
I don't mind whatsoever. I'll read it again. I move that administration work with the Fort McMurray Heritage Society and the Fort Chippewa Bicentennial Museum to review and bring forward options to create a regional heritage society that includes the Heritage Shipyard, the Heritage Village, and Fort Chippewa Bicentennial Museum. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Grandison. I definitely support this. I mean, we go to the Heritage Park here and see what's there. We want to make sure that's kept up. But as you mentioned, Fort Chippewa, I've been going to Fort Chippewa for almost 30 years, and my first stop was always the museum to visit Oliver. I'd go upstairs to see Kendrick laughing there. He knows. You go upstairs and visit Oliver, and he has the paperwork and documents upstairs, and he would have stories and stories and stories, and I would like to see that protected. And God forbid anything happen, we lost that museum. I would definitely like to see that. So I definitely support this motion. Thanks for bringing it forward, Councillor Grandison.
And in addition, Mr. Mayor, I believe that we have a lot of industry partners that I believe if there was a collective organized ask to support this, our industry partners have a vested interest in supporting our culture and heritage. They talk about it, they demonstrate it all the time. We just have to be in a situation where it's a constructive, organized request with an outcome. And I believe they'll support this as well, sir.
I agree, thanks. Councillor Ball?
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I have no issues with this motion, but I'm trying to understand it. So we're going to create a society. Who creates that? And who becomes they make the decisions on how these places are operated and managed and maintained? I'm lost on what the intention is.
Yeah, fair enough, Councillor Ball. The societies are already created. The Heritage Society already exists. Fort Chip, I'm not sure their status is not active right now because I believe there's been some missed deadlines in terms of registering paperwork. We need a society to be established in order to access federal and provincial funds. So that entity has to remain in whatever that structure looks like. Whether that's, right now we have 2 or 3 independent structures. I'm suggesting one to work towards one structure. Whether that actually occurs, Councillor Ball, I don't know, but I'd like admin to work towards that goal. and work with the organizations on ensuring that there's appropriate repairs and maintenance budgets so that, you know, we have different divisions. We have our safety people going into Heritage Park, for example, identifying things, but not necessarily a plan of action for a budget to actually fix it, kind of, you know what I mean? So it's a much bigger picture than just year to year. And I'm asking our admin to go back and take a big picture look on how we can preserve that and come back to council with recommendations. That's essentially, so I don't know exactly what the outcome is going to look like, Councillor Ball, but I would hope that what administration brings back will be satisfactory to council and support this in our community.
Okay, I guess that answer spins off a few more questions then. So the intention, I'm a bit confused because these groups operate on their own. Now your example of the municipality creating a budget to assist, is this becoming an operational component of the RMWB, and is this something that the CAO is in support of?
I don't actually know what the final outcome is, Councillor Ball, but we own the land. And at the end of the day,
I get we own the land, but we don't operate the facility. So
no, I understand that, Councillor Ball, but
you don't have to explain that to me. So I'm trying to understand what the intention of again, I do support this idea, but I'm trying to figure out what the role is. Is it eventually the abolishment of the 3 existing and one takes over?
That's a very distinct possibility, Councillor Ball. That instead of 3 separate, we have one that addresses all of them collectively, and that there's an appropriate budget and support to ensure that these facilities operate safely within our community. I'm sure you know the value. We just had an event that probably saw 10,000 people going through Heritage Park, so there's a tremendous value. I just want to look and make, for all the years when I was involved with a municipality, I never thought we worked particularly well in the sandbox with certain agencies, and Heritage Park is one of them. And I think this master plan says that.
Yeah, so I agree with that. But normally these societies operate on their own, and it seems like, or at least that's my impression of them. And now we're getting admin to do all the legwork to create a new society or a suggestion of a new society. Is this normally a municipal function to do that, or is it the society's function?
It's usually the society's function, but we do provide funding to these organizations, and
agreed.
And wanting to ensure that we're doing the best for supporting these organizations. And I can look at it and have my perspective, Councillor Ball, but I'm asking admin to take a broader look at it and bring something back. So the recommendations and outcomes will be dependent on, and we've provided support before. We've been up in Fort Chip to try and help them get their books back in order. That's part of the service that our community service departments have done in the past to make these things successful. So it's just really more of the same, Councillor Ball, with hopefully recommendations of an outcome that works for everybody.
Okay, fair point. I'm just curious, is there anyone from these societies present to speak to this, or Heritage Park?
I did speak, just to be clear. I spoke with the chair and 4 board members and the ED. They're all aware that this is coming, and they were all in agreement with it coming forward. And I think the mayor can confirm some of that because he spoke to them as well.
You're talking about the chairs of Heritage Park and
correct. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. No, just all right. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ball. Councillor Dogar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, important motion. Thank you very much, my colleague, Councillor Grandison. I went to Heritage Park yesterday to discuss with Varna Murphy, and I pray for his son. She was in the hospital, chemotherapy, and today I again went. I met her, had a meeting. She had no clue of this coordination, and she was not mentally ready to discuss it. However, she only knew that Councillor Grandison is proceeding with some motion. I think it's unnecessary wastage of time. We should first of all discuss with her, take her input so that she gives what are the capabilities, what are the resources, how can they do it. There could not be nobody better advisor to comment on it than Varna Murphy herself. Thank you very much.
Just for clarity, the executive director, Verna Murphy, is very much aware of this. I met with her personally. I also met with her and her chair and a board member all at the same time. We had a conference call, and I also met with 3 of the other board members individually. So that's not actually a councillor or executive director Verna Murphy is very well aware that this is coming forward and was in support of it. So I don't know what else to say.
Thanks, Councillor Dogar. Thanks, Councillor Grandison. Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. So we've had some challenges with the Fort McMurray Heritage Society in terms of them keeping up and meeting up with documentation and some submissions, which maybe I don't need to go into. In what way is your new proposal going to help us? Who is going to take the lead? How is this going to work? What are the advantages of what you're talking about in terms of addressing the non-compliance, and some things that has not been meeting our mark?
Do you want to address that?
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko. Over the few years, we've had some issues with the Heritage Society and Fort Chippewan being able to meet the deadlines and to help them get funding. And we're starting to see a similar trend with the Heritage Society here in Fort McMurray. And what we hope this will do is by getting council's approval to come forward with options, we can look at different options of how this could be structured so that we can get an economy of scale with both of these organisations working together. We only need then maybe just one set of books as opposed to 2. And so we can make changes and hopefully better that way. What we really need is with this authorisation from council, that'll give us the authority to go there and speak to these societies and maybe get access so that we can look into how we can help them going forward and build out some options.
And this is an assignment that you are prepared to take on.
Councillor, through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, Director Bergie tells me she's looking forward to it.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you.
Questions from council? Not seeing any. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Cardinal.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Councillor Grandison about bringing this forward. I know that there's issues here in the community of Fort Chip as well, and financial audits, reporting, funding issues, protection of our heritage here, protection of the museum. I just find this a great motion, and I wholeheartedly support it, and I look forward to the outcome, and great job. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Cardinal. Do we have any delegates for this item?
We have no delegates for this item. Thank you.
Thanks. Does council have any other discussion, debate points, or comments before we vote? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote.
In favor.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Both in favor. You in favor, Councillor Doga, or opposed?
We're not debating.
We already passed it. We're all past the debate. We're just at the vote right now. Yeah, but we can discuss that later if you want, but. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Doga. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. So for right now, the meeting will be adjourned. Thanks, everyone. The last meeting? Okay, yeah. So the item number 6.5, Councillor McGrath isn't here for his motion, so we'll defer that to a later date. And thanks for participating in our second night of meetings. Yeah, we did that already. So Marcy Choke and Ms. Compton, have a good night. We'll now take a 15-minute recess. So we're moving on to the organizational meeting of council in 15 minutes. And we'll let